there isn't really an argument about what you said.
Right.
It's on tape.
Right.
The question is whether it was illegal and whether it was morally wrong.
Look, if you're saying, do we have a fundraising system in America that you could argue is legalized bribery? I think there's truth to that. But did I do anything other than that standard that every other person in politics does? From President Biden on down, I did the same as them and nothing worse.
Long before Trump, and this doesn't excuse anything Trump's done because he still leads the league in indictments, there was Rod. United States' Scandal is a six-part series on CNN. Jake Tapper's the host. The premiere hour was Sunday night. You can still catch it indefinitely on demand on CNN. And Pam Davis, who ran Edwards Hospital in Naperville with distinction for 3 decades, long before merger mania took hold, saw the need in Plainfield on that Route 59 corridors. It was growing like crazy and said, we need to put a hospital in Plainfield. Seems like a reasonable idea. And she had certainly had plenty of high-level meetings about it. But then the state started to squeeze her. She would eventually wear a wire and be the lead element to take down Rod Blagojevich. And let me just say, Pam, thank you for what you did.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on. And I don't know that people know that behind the scenes, like Tapper, I'm sure talked to you for an hour or two. You end up being on for 6 or 7 minutes, but there's much more to the story. But I thought there was a really good funneling down of how this all started. So you wanted to put the hospital in Plainfield. What's the state's involvement at that point?
I'm sorry, what's the state's involvement?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes. In many states, they have something called the Health Facilities Planning Board, and the concept there is that they think they're going to save money by reviewing these projects. In order to get a project approved, it's just $250 million project. Trust me, I had huge oversight by the Board of Trustees already.
Sure.
But this planning board was made up of individuals who are appointed by the governor. Now, in and of itself, that's not necessarily, a bad thing or corrupt. It just adds another layer of approval. But sadly, in this case, it was peppered with individuals who were going to take additional money from this project and actually then pay out other people. Stu Levine was one, Tony Resco was one, and ultimately a portion would go to the governor. So when Blagojevich says, look, I appointed people like anyone else, all right, that may be true, but other people were not padding their contracts for cash that was then given out to other political operatives.
Yeah, or used in other ways, which, of course, is the great problem with campaign funding to begin with. But it's not okay just because everybody else does it. So this notion of making it rain for politics, you sniffed the trouble at some point, and the FBI gets a call from you. Or initially, I had the sense the FBI didn't take it too seriously, right?
Well, nobody normal calls the FBI, right. Okay?
Hi, it's Pam. Is this the FBI?
Exactly. You're working with these contracts. You're like, this isn't right. So you just call up the FBI? Like, how do you know the number? Nobody calls the FBI.
No, I found out later that truly only people with some mental health issues generally would be the callers. So I could tell they truly were not taking me seriously. And so I said, hey, okay, look, I've done what I think I need to do. I even telling you, I feel like I sound ridiculous. So, okay, I've done my thing, and thanks very much. And I got off the phone, and I'm like, oh, my God, I'm just a freaking idiot. And I'm sure they did some background checking. They called me back, and they said, hey, look, we don't think there's really, extortion occurring here, but we'll take a listen to at least one meeting.
So you end up having a meeting. Was it downtown here at the FBI headquarters at Roosevelt?
No. No, the first meeting, I definitely met with the FBI they came to my office at this first meeting and was told, you cannot tell anybody that we're here and we don't think anything's going to come of this. But they then wired up my phone then I had Nick Hirchin from Bear Stearns and the construction individual meet me in my office. And so we were just talking, and I said, wow, what makes you guys think that you've got so much clout that I need to hire you? I go, this is it's a pitch I hear from everybody. And they said, well, you're not going to get your project approved unless you hire us for the construction and the bond financing.
And they said it out loud, boys and girls.
Well, I'm sure they too thought I was an idiot. So my phone rings then in my office. The FBI had told me to answer it. So I answer the phone, and they go, get him out of there now. And so they hang up, and I'm like, what the heck do I do now? It's been like a 3-minute meeting. And so, I do what any, decent mother would do. And I'm saying that I hate using this card. I went over and said, oh, my God, you guys, that was a school. I've got to go pick up one of my kids.
No, it's a perfectly reasonable bending of the truth in that circumstance.
Yeah, but now I look like an idiot again. Because they go, what CEO has people come out from Chicago and within 2 seconds goes, I have to go take care of my kids? I just feel like an idiot all the way around.
Yeah, but clearly
you would never have done that if it was a real situation, but you had to do it for what you were doing.
Give yourself credit. The circumstances were what they were. All right, so from there, this leads to, and there's a whole timeline to this, but this leads to eventually the FBI goes, not only is it serious, we think it's something there. And by the way, the FBI doesn't just bring out phone equipment and hook it up unless they think something's going on.
Yeah.
So they're clearly interested at that point. And and then they come to the point where they want you to wear a wire. Now, Pam, I know how hard you worked to build Edward Hospital and the great team you had there, and it's a wonderful hospital. I assume wearing a wire wasn't part of your regular job?
Oh, I did that routinely.
You must have thought you were in an episode of some,
it
cop
sounds
show.
like it. Were you nervous, though?
No, well, first of all, I didn't know that this was going to go on for so long. And no, I was not nervous at all. Over time, it became exhausting.
Sure.
Because it went on for 8 months. Now, you wear a wire on and off. I clearly was not, wearing this all the time. But I was doing 2 jobs. I'm doing my job running the hospital and then, talking really daily to the FBI and figuring out, meetings and when I would be wired up and
we're laughing, but there's some considerable risk to this as well. So stick around a second. We got to do a quick break. We'll come back. More with Pam Davis, the woman who helped topple Rod Blagojevich and expose the corruption in Springfield.
I should apologize for that. What are you thinking?
Well, you call me later, Rod. Rod Blagojevich, Pam Davis, cage match. Pam won. Mm-hmm. Pam Davis, longtime CEO at Edward Hospital, featured prominently, as she should be, in the United States of Scandal, the Tapper series, showing the scandal in politics as it exists and has existed and will exist. Power corrupts, you know the cliche. Pam rejoins us now. When last we left this saga, Pam, I feel like we need background music. But you're wearing a wire, obviously not a regular, comfortable thing. You did this for months. And then when does the FBI say, thank you, we'll let you know? Because the feds take a couple of years to build this case.
Correct. After a couple of months, I thought, my God, how long is this thing going to go on? This is ridiculous. I keep meeting with these individuals over and over. And ultimately it occurred to me, oh, my God, they've done phone taps, and these phone taps clearly are moving up a chain. Mm-hmm. And I tried to ask the FBI agents, I said, hey, how long are we going to do this? It's getting kind of exhausting. Are you getting anywhere? And they cannot tell me anything. They were professional. They could not say anything. And I was getting frustrated. And I said, look, you guys have to tell me something or I'm not going to do this. Mm. And they were not used to anybody, having, heated discussions with them because typically if somebody's working with the FBI, they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. And you pretty much are supposed to do what they say. And
Yeah, you didn't have a deal to make with the FBI to stay out of jail. You were trying to do the right thing.
Well, correct. And I also wasn't, I'm used to telling other people what to do.
Right.
I wasn't real good at having them tell me what I was going to do. So it did go on for a long time. Ultimately, the FBI, Patrick Fitzgerald, who is, I think, incredibly talented, called and said thank you. And I said, gosh, did you call everybody? And they go, God, no, nobody does it this long.
Oh, well, how about that? Yeah. Jane, say hi to Pam.
Hi, Pam. So one of the other things I find interesting, too, which is kind of the side story to what you were going through, is that the plans for the hospital were then hindered and stopped because it was going on for so long.
Yep.
And you were like, the consequences of his actions are really affecting the patients and the children that need this hospital to be built.
Exactly. It is truly disgusting to me that for some individuals, once they get in power and they want that money, it does not matter who they hurt.
Right.
I mean, this is healthcare. I was appalled. In fact, during these review meetings, I honestly thought that our presentations were so effective and spot on that we were going to get approved, that it would be too embarrassing for these individuals to actually vote no. And in some cases, they got up out of their seats, went to other board members to ensure that they were going to turn this project down.
How about that?
And I was furious. I stormed out of one of these meetings, which is ridiculous. It'd be like storming out of court. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And, competing hospitals and everyone else, the newspapers were reporting my behavior. Mm-hmm. And I was appalled at myself, but I cannot tell you the pressure of having this turned down over and over. I actually said at one point, the next time I was saying it to an attorney who nobody had any idea what the hell I was doing. I go, the next time I see them, they're going to be in prison, which was a ridiculous thing to say, but I was so hot. And one of the operatives, I'll call them, overheard me. And then on later phone taps, they were heard laughing that I had said that and saying, nobody can stop us, that arrogant.
Yeah.
See,
wow.
Right.
I mean, just awful, awful things they were saying about me.
And that's the thing. Crime plus stupid never works out well for the criminals. And these were stupid people who happened to believe they could just run people over, and they tried it with the wrong person. And now, the gratification that must have been felt by you when you got to the point where you get this random phone call on what otherwise seems to be a normal morning, and it's the FBI and said, we just want to say thank you. We're going to get them today.
It was truly unbelievable. Yes.
And when that happened, obviously it was hugely covered because generally speaking, you don't go pick the governor up, put him in handcuffs and take him over to the FBI. But Pam, I don't know if you know this. This goes to Rod's narcissism. I was at the FBI headquarters and some of the agents showed me the desk that he was handcuffed to. And he routinely asked anybody that went by if they wanted an autograph on the same morning.
Really?
Yeah. You're the governor of the state of Illinois. No, it's a true story. But that's the Rod Blagojevich you knew. That's the one we know in the background that was so compartmentalized and so clueless, handcuffed to a desk. He's thinking, anybody need an autograph?
Testicular virility.
I mean, you can't make it up. Well, I certainly hope you're proud of what you've done.
Oh, you know what, I am, but I would just hope that good people would stand up. I mean, that democracy does not work unless you have good people who will stand up to corruption.
Right, and it's such a lesson to give. You mentioned saying next time you see these guys will be in jail. Obviously, you couldn't tell anybody. Is that the hardest secret you've ever had to keep?
Oh, God, yes, absolutely, yes, yes. And you know what? I became invested that something happened. And ultimately, I think there were 15 people indicted. And I think all but one was given prison time. I mean, think how sad that is, that it's that many people.
Yeah.
Not all with this hospital project, but through the phone taps.
Sure.
They were doing this in multiple places.
Sure.
It It took courage for you to say, this is wrong. I'm going to go do it. A lot of people wouldn't. They would just say, okay, fine, I'll use what I want to get this hospital done. But you did it. And it took a lot of courage. A lot of people wouldn't have done that. I think the important thing here is, in hindsight, you also promote getting young people out there to vote and understand who they're voting for and why they're voting.
That is what I am hoping for, yes. And when I actually talk about this at different places, the point I'm trying to make is that, we do have a wonderful, wonderful system that generally works well, and that it requires young people to be educated and to actually vote, or things absolutely can fall apart.
And the thing that I constantly bring up here, Pam, is we're not going to change the system overnight. It is clearly broken. We understand people's frustration, their apathy, but the way you don't change it is to stay home. You've got to be involved. You got to find people who you believe in. And if you vote for them and they're elected and you find out they're the wrong people, you got to go get new ones. The system can only work if you're involved in it. It's not a Facebook post. It's getting up and saying, enough is enough. I'm not going to put up with it. I'm going to call the FBI. I'm going to wear a wire. I'm going to wait for Dick Wolf to call and offer me a show. It's an amazing story, and I thank you for doing it and talking to us about it. But I thank you for what you did. It was a brave thing to do, and I'm glad you're speaking to others about it, because that message from you and us here and everybody. I mean, the more we can just preach this, if we get some, you know what it is, Pam? If we get just one more person to vote, that's not enough. We need 10 more, and 10 more beyond that. So we'll keep preaching here, and you keep doing the same.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate you,
Thanks,
man.
Pam.
It's Pam Davis. I love that, too. And she goes, I used to telling people what to do.
That's right. It's the best.